What if the key to your vitality lay not externally, in expensive treatments or trendy formulas, but within yourself, in a silent source you've forgotten to cultivate? On this profound journey, we rediscover the lost art of transforming your life energy into lasting youth, mental clarity, and spiritual growth. It's neither magic nor theory. It's an ancient practice that has endured for millennia and returns to you today to remind you that you are made of light, power, and living wisdom. Prepare to open the doors of your inner temple and discover the elixir that will transform your time, your body, and your destiny. There are secrets the modern world has forgotten, not because they are valuable, but because they require a look that already teaches us. A look within, into the invisible sanctuaries of the body, where a silent yet profoundly transformative energy resides. This energy has been revered since ancient times by civilizations that understood the connection between life, the rhythm of the universe, and mental health. What many today seek outside, in laboratories, expensive treatments, or external techniques, was preserved for centuries by wise men who had no other tool than their awakened consciousness. They knew that a powerful current flows through the human body, which, if wasted, drains vitality. Yet, preserved and strengthened, it imparts vibrant youth and a timeless state of spiritual clarity. From the mountains of the East to the hidden temples of Hermetic knowledge, masters spoke of an inner force invisible to the naked eye, yet sustaining all life processes. This essence, generated deep within the body and connected to the lower energy centers, is the fuel that enables not only the creation of life but also its regeneration. In its pure state, it flows outward to give birth. But directed inward, it can awaken dormant areas of the body, enlighten the mind, and regenerate the finest tissues of the soul. This is not a belief, but rather a refined observation of human nature and the universe. Taoist sages, for example, called this force Jing, an essential form of energy that accumulates primarily in the kidneys and, when cultivated, nourishes the organs, strengthens the mind, and maintains emotional balance. For millennia, these observers of the cosmos have observed that everything that grows and thrives shares a common pattern: the ability to store, refine, and reuse its energy. Trees that live to be 1,000 years old don't do so by chance, but because they have perfected the art of not wasting. Their deep roots, their measured cycles, and their relationship with their environment teach them how to live wisely. Likewise, we humans can learn to direct our creative power not only outward but also inward, transforming our bodies into a temple that renews itself from within. To achieve this, we must understand that decay is not an inevitable fate, but the result of unconscious habits that dissipate life energy rather than conserve it. When this energy is repeatedly lost, whether due to mental agitation, lack of sleep, intense emotions, or disordered routines, the body enters a state of constant compensation. The glands have to work harder, the nervous system becomes overloaded, and the mind begins to cloud. Lack of enthusiasm, frequent forgetfulness, the loss of sparkle in the eyes, or emotional rigidity are not natural signs of the passage of time, but rather indications that the inner source is being unconsciously depleted. But just as a lamp can shine again by restoring its energy, so too can the body regain its light if we learn to preserve and redirect this energy instead of allowing it to escape. What distinguishes a true master is not the amount of knowledge they accumulate, but their ability to transform invisible energy into visible manifestation. This inner alchemy was passed down from generation to generation, not through books, but through life practices based on stillness, breathing, contemplation, and deep respect for the body. The ancients spoke of youth not as a chronological stage, but as a state of the energy field. They knew that when energy flows freely, the body remains flexible, the mind clear, and the soul radiant. It's not the passage of time that causes aging, but the accumulation of blockages, tensions, and forgetfulness that prevent the natural flow of energy. Today, this ancient knowledge is resurfacing. Thanks to the work of some contemporary masters who had the courage to rediscover these teachings and adapt them to modern language, we have the opportunity to rediscover a lost art. The key is to stop viewing energy as something to be wasted without consequence, but rather to consider it a sacred resource that nourishes every cell, every thought, and every feeling. There is no need to become a zeta or to withdraw from the world. Simply learn to inhabit the body from a different place, with presence, sensitivity, and gratitude. The practice begins with a simple awareness, knowing that what you feel in your lower center is not just an impulse, but a sacred current that you can activate, raise, and distribute throughout your entire system. By inhaling deeply and expanding your belly, you remind your body that an inexhaustible source of life is waiting to be awakened. By exhaling gently, you allow this life to settle and permeate your organs and tissues. It is an act of return, of remembrance, of alchemy. This inner journey has nothing to do with suppression or effort. Above all, it is a path of gentleness. Like a flower opening to the sun, life energy needs a loving and tranquil environment to unfold. That's why the ancients didn't separate body, mind, and spirit. They knew that the way you think influences the way you breathe, and that the way you breathe determines the flow of energy. When thoughts are agitated, emotions are dense, the flow becomes turbulent. But when your gaze is serene and your presence is honest, the energy begins to organize itself, as if remembering its origin. This is where true youth emerges, not as an outward manifestation, but as an inner resonance that permeates everything. A vital person doesn't need to speak of their strength, for their mere presence conveys it. His voice is firm, his gaze clear, his posture light. There is a connection between what he feels, what he thinks, and what he radiates. This connection is the result of a life in which energy is no longer wasted but becomes nourishment for the soul. And this life is open to everyone who, starting today, decides to stop looking outward and instead remember what has always been within. For the source of vitality is not a secret, but a practice. And this practice begins now with a single decision. Care for your energy as you care for the sacred fire of your existence. Understanding that a regenerative source lies dormant within you is only the first step. The next step is knowing how to tap into it, how to cultivate it, and how to increase it without it becoming dissipated or stagnant. This is where true art begins, the inner work that the sages of the past practiced in silence, in the seclusion of their temples or caves, far from the noise of the world, yet deeply connected to the invisible stream of life. The creative essence that lies deep within the body must neither be suppressed nor denied, but guided. It is like a river that, if it flows without direction, can overflow its banks and erode its boundaries. But if channeled attentively, it becomes a source of constructive power that can nourish all levels of being. The ancients called this practice inner alchemy, and it was not an empty metaphor, but an apt description of a process of energetic transformation. This alchemy was not based on external formulas, but on three fundamental phases: activation, elevation, and refinement. In the first phase, the energy is awakened from its original center, the deep point a few finger widths below the navel. There lies the natural reservoir of vitality, which the Taoists called the lower Tantien. This area can be activated through abdominal breathing, gentle contraction of the perineum, and mindful attention. The point is not to get excited or agitated, but to notice the subtle heat that begins to glow like an ember. With constant practice, this ember transforms into a flame and then into light. The second, most delicate phase is the ascending circulation. This is where the central channel comes into play, an energy pathway that runs from the pelvic floor to the crown of the head. Through a combination of deep breathing, clear visualization, and conscious tension, this energy rises like warm snow, illuminating the spine. As it ascends, it touches every energy center of the body, awakening consciousness and revitalizing the organs. This ascent is not forced, but guided respectfully, like someone accompanying a child on its first steps or erecting a pillar. Intention is everything. Technical perfection is not as important as the purity of the inner state from which one practices. Once the energy has been directed upward, the third stage, higher storage, begins. Here, refined energy is stored in three main centers, which the sages called the three treasures. In the abdominal area, the energy becomes physical vitality and stability. In the heart, it becomes emotional balance and natural attraction. And in the mind, it transforms into mental clarity, sharp intuition, and spiritual openness. These three centers not only contribute to daily life, but also determine the vibrational quality of existence. Those who have learned to store their energy on these three levels become a beacon of presence, someone who radiates effortless serenity and whose mere presence harmonizes their surroundings. However, there are nuances that cannot be ignored. One of the most common mistakes made by those embarking on this path is the assumption that accumulating energy is enough. The truth is, what doesn't move stagnates. Life energy, like water, must circulate to sustain life. If it is withdrawn without being redistributed, physical ailments, stomach aches, unexplained anxiety, or insomnia can occur. The sages knew that simply storing it is not enough. One must know how to move, direct, and sublimate it. Therefore, every practice must incorporate upward breathing, gentle movements, and constant visualization. Only in this way can internal pressure prevent the system from collapsing. Another crucial aspect is the emotional quality from which this alchemy emerges. If the practitioner is dominated by fear, worry, or an unconscious desire for power, their energy becomes contaminated. The emerging essence is then not luminous, but dense, and instead of nourishing, it can create confusion or even imbalance. Therefore, it is necessary to prepare the heart before any technique. The correct attitude is that of one who approaches the sacred with humility, gratitude, and reverence. Every breath becomes a silent prayer, every contraction an act of consecration. Every visualization reminds us that the body is the temple of a higher intelligence. It's also important to understand that this path does not mean denial or rejection of the creative impulse, but rather its conscious integration. Balance is key. It's not about never releasing energy, but rather doing so with presence, intention, and, above all, with subsequent observation. If you feel strength, serenity, and clarity after releasing energy, then you have acted in alignment. However, if fatigue, emptiness, or lack of motivation overwhelm you, you have likely exceeded your limits. Learning to listen to your body is just as important as knowing how to move energy. Every organism has a different rhythm, and finding that inner rhythm is an essential part of mastery. In parallel with energetic practice, ancient sages also strengthened the physical body. They knew that a weak vessel couldn't absorb valuable fluids. Therefore, they introduced exercises such as qigong, mindful walking, gentle stretching, and a high-energy diet. These habits kept the body's channels open and the body structure flexible. A strong but not tense body, flexible but not weak. This is the ideal means of keeping energy high without it being dissipated or damaged. True mastery, however, is not measured by what happens during the practice, but by how this energy transforms daily life. When you begin to live more calmly, when your decisions are wiser, and your presence brings peace to others, you know something profound is happening within you. Refined energy is not limited to moments of meditation. Refined energy is not limited to moments of meditation. Pay attention to every word, every look, every everyday gesture. You will become more attentive, more intuitive, more magnetic. You will become more attentive, more intuitive, more magnetic. Not because I seek it, but because inner harmony naturally reflects itself outwardly. Achieving this state doesn't require long retreats or complicated rituals. It requires commitment, consistency, and self-love. It requires a willingness to transform simple actions into conscious rituals. Breathing consciously, moving with presence, observing oneself without judgment. This is true alchemy, transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, the invisible into the tangible, the fleeting into the eternal. Here, practice becomes the path and the way becomes a way of life. Every day is an opportunity to move energy instead of blocking it, to nourish it instead of depleting it, to elevate it instead of dissipating it. The body becomes an instrument of transformation, the soul a silent guide, and the heart an altar upon which the divine manifests. This is true alchemy, taking the densest and transforming it into light, without denying its origin, but consciously honoring it. Knowing the inner source of renewal is a gift. Learning to awaken and activate it is essential. An art. But what truly changes lives is integrating this wisdom into every day, every decision, every breath. Because energy alone doesn't work miracles. It is consciousness that makes it sacred through touch. And in everyday life, this alchemy finds its deepest meaning. It's not about becoming an ascetic being or living in isolation in search of perfection, but about living the present with a refined energy that elevates every action, however simple it may seem, to an expression of mastery. True transformation doesn't happen in moments of deep meditation, but when you bring that presence into the simplest gesture. When you walk mindfully, when you eat with gratitude, when you speak honestly. There, at the center of the everyday, the extraordinary power of well-directed life energy is ignited. Therefore, the sages did not separate body, mind, or the sacred from the everyday. They knew that a smile upon waking can be more powerful than 1,000 mantras if it arises from aligned energy. They knew that physical work, performed with conscious breathing and an open heart, becomes a practice of presence that strengthens the soul. Integrating this energy into your daily life begins with breathing. Every morning, before the world drags you down, you can sit for a few minutes with your back straight, palms on your stomach, and simply breathe in, and feel your lower center expand, life flowing effortlessly into you, and this invisible flow awakening something dormant. As you breathe out, release tension, pressure, and distractions. This simple abdominal breathing not only activates the Tantien, the natural energy reservoir, but also stabilizes your nervous system, harmonizes your thoughts, and clarifies your focus for the rest of the day. It's not about quantity, but quality. One breath with presence can balance your entire energy field better than hours of unconscious effort. Another exercise you can do during the day is gently contracting your perineum. This almost imperceptible gesture closes the lower body circulation and prevents energy from being lost. You can do this while walking, working, or quietly waiting. It's not about tension, but about connection. It's like igniting an inner flame that keeps the kettle going and ignites the subtle fire that sustains your vitality. Through this practice, you begin to strengthen the depths of your energy, thus creating a solid foundation for a stable and safe energetic ascension. Accompany these techniques with a loving attitude toward your body. Ancient people knew that organs are not just physical structures, but also repositories of emotions, memories, and frequencies. Therefore, they practiced the so-called inner shadow. Focus your attention on the inside of your chest, abdomen, lungs, liver, and kidneys for a few minutes every day and smile. Not with your lips, but with the energy of your heart. This silent shadow sends a message of gratitude and appreciation to every part of your being, helping you release tension and restore harmony. You can even accompany it with a gentle massage of the lumbar spine, thus activating the vital reserve that, according to the sages, rests in the nostrils. But beyond these specific exercises, the key lies in the intention with which you live. Every thought, every feeling, every word affects your energy field. Therefore, it's important to develop a calm mind, elevated emotions, and a clear will. Life energy is extremely sensitive. If you cultivate it with fear, it becomes unpredictable. If you harbor guilt, it becomes blocked. But if you approach it calmly, reverently, and with pure intention, it becomes light, clarity, and expansion. The way you treat yourself, how you assess your body, how you speak to yourself, all of this shapes the quality of your vibrational field. Alchemy is not just a set of techniques. It is a way of treating yourself, of feeling yourself, and of recognizing yourself as a conscious channel of creative energy. Moderation is another crucial aspect. In a world that encourages excess, learning to say enough is an act of power. Not to suppress you, but to preserve what is most sacred to you. Your energy isn't an infinite resource. If you use it carelessly, your body will feel it. If you waste it aimlessly, your mind will become exhausted. But if you learn to observe yourself and recognize when you need to let go and when it's better to conserve, you'll have taken a big step toward wisdom. Listening to your body after every energetic experience is the most reliable thermometer. If you feel fulfilled, balanced, and strengthened, you're on the right path. If emptiness, stagnation, or anger overwhelm you, something needs to change. Self-observation and honesty are more powerful tools than any external formula. And we must not forget the physical body as a sacred vessel. Taking care of yourself isn't an aesthetic matter, it's a spiritual one. Mindful walking, daily stretching, choosing nourishing foods over toxins, guilt-free rest, and fluid movement. All of these things prepare your body to store more energy, because a broken glass cannot contain the most precious wine. And your body, becoming strong, flexible, and harmonious, becomes the perfect vessel to channel the power within you. Ultimately, it all comes down to one simple yet transformative truth. Youth is not a number, but an energetic state. It is the result of a continuous flow, an undistracted consciousness, a body that doesn't become exhausted without reason. When energy flows freely, your face radiates, your posture is balanced, and your thoughts are orderly. Not because they have escaped time, but because they have learned to live it with dignity and presence. The great difference between those who shine the light and those who fade with the years lies not in their genes, but in how they handle their inner fire. Whether they waste it or nurture it, whether they forget or remember. You are not just a body, you are a channel, a spark, an alchemist. Every day you have a choice about how you use your energy. Every day you can decide whether to nourish or weaken your field. And with this decision, your destiny is determined. This is not the end of the road. It is only the beginning of a different way of life. If you felt something within yourself while reading these words, then you have already begun to remember. The energy that transforms isn't out there. It's within you. Just wait until you recognize it, breathe it, and honor it. Because when you do, something changes forever. Your body regenerates, your mind clears, your soul expands. And this transformation needs no witnesses. Your presence alone is enough to demonstrate it. You've walked through the invisible corridors of your body. You've felt the fire ignite deep within you. And now you know that true rejuvenation doesn't come from the outside, but from the way you move, breathe, feel, and sense your energy. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, just consistent. Every conscious breath is a step. Every sound decision is a victory. And every moment of the present is a flame that illuminates your path back to yourself. If this wisdom has touched you, share it. Let others remember what modernity seeks to forget. Register, ring the bell, and join us on this journey where body, mind, and soul dance in unity again. May your refined energy be the witch who guides you to a fulfilled, joyful, and radiant life.